What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Undead Horde developer update for October 2025, and I'm going to give my thoughts on the new cards coming to this season of Marvel Snap. I'm doing a giveaway for PAX bundles. Stick around till the end of the video to find out how you can win. I have not seen Marvel Zombies. I don't know if this is the art style it uses. I don't think it will be. So I did know about Zombie Horde already and how it works, but I don't know all of the cards coming to this season. But Zombie Horde is a new mechanic, and when you Zombie Horde, or when you, I think it's going to be called like Horde 2, for example, you create a Zombie Horde token card with that much power at another location. But if you already have a Zombie Horde, then you give the already existing Zombie Horde that much power. This is the Season Pass card, Zombie Scarlet Witch. This one I already was familiar with. It is basically like an Angela, which gets additional power when you play a card to the location, but instead, Zombie Scarlet Witch gives you power at a different location. So it's like an Angela that plays to a separate location, which can be good because then you're playing a bunch of cards on Zombie Scarlet Witch and pumping up another location for doing so. The best cards with this are going to be cards that were previously good with Angela, which are going to be cards that allow you to play multiple cards at that location, mostly move cards and Kitty Pride. And also as cheap of cards as you can get are going to be the best case scenario. One thing that I'm also not sure about with this, and I suppose other bounce effects could also work, like Falcon or potentially even Toxin or Beast, though Falcon feels like it has the biggest upside because it won't bounce the Zombie Scarlet Witch, so you won't have to replay that. But Beast could work as well. But one thing that I am not sure about as far as the Horde mechanic is how it will work if you try to like double up on the Horde, maybe with like an Arnim Zola. That's like the easiest example because you're just playing Arnim Zola on the final turn and sending the Horde to the other two locations. I do think it can probably be Shadow Kingable, though that's a little bit tough to tell in a black and white gameplay footage. But I think you will be able to Shadow King the Horde, and the main thing that I was curious about with the Arnim Zola of it all is like, say you have multiple zombie hordes and then you play another card into Zombie Scarlet Witch, then will that mean that both of your zombie hordes get pumped up, or are you just going to pump up the first one? That's like the main way to copy it. There is Bastion as well, but as far as the actual implications of a Zombie Scarlet Witch, the closest thing that we really have is a Bishop, which gets +1 power whenever you play a card anywhere. Honestly, the closest thing really is just Angela. Just Bishop feels like a clean comparison as well because it's a 3-cost card, whereas Angela only costs 2. As a 3-cost card, there's still more than enough time to play 3 more cards at that location to have a 6-power Horde, and if this is just a 3/8, it's already pretty good, right? So even just on the face value of it, I think a 3/8 fairly reasonable. And then when you get into moving cards away from Zombie Scarlet Witch and bouncing cards so that way you can play even more cards to that location, you're just getting even better value on top of that. But as a 3/8, mind you, that is Shadow Kingable, I don't know, doesn't seem bad to begin with. We are also getting Headpool this season. This is the premium Fantasticar pass card, though it will have the same rules as Sparky. You can get it on day 1 with tokens or in snap packs. When this is destroyed, return it to your hand, very similar text there, then give all cards in your hand +1 power. So this is both like another copy of Deadpool-ish, but synergistic with Deadpool and synergistic with some other things. Pumping up everything in your hand could just be good to then pump up some Mr. Sinisters and Broods. And so I wonder if playing Killmonger Headpool in these pump decks. So a long time ago in Marvel Snap, people used to play Killmonger plus Nova. The original Nova, which says when this is destroyed, give all of the cards in play +1 power. It's not something that people are doing anymore. What could it also get played in that that Nova? I think that people used to like. I think you could just get away with that in like a Cerebro 3 deck even. Now, there's other 1-cost cards that you'd like to potentially play in Cerebro 3, but it could fit the bill because it pumps up all of your cards equally if you do that Killmonger on the final turn. This will pump itself. I just realized. I actually did not consider that. So that's interesting. I also think when I see hand buffs, I think about Clea, but the overlap between that might not be that great. And then there is the chance for you to play this multiple times for multiple buffs. But the interesting thing, mostly, I would say Killmonger aside, honestly, that feels like the best archetype for Headpool is the Camo sort of like surferless surfer deck that runs a little bit of tech and then Brood, Surge, Gwenpool, and wants to pump up its own cards. Mysterio is another really good thing to pump up with Headpool. Anything that's good to pump up is going to be good with Headpool, but the big distinction is that you have to destroy it. So it's a fairly big ask. We're doing a few hoops just to basically get like a Nakia buff, which is not a playable card, right? So I think that only works if you decide that you are playing both a bunch of cards that want buffs and you are playing Killmonger because you want to destroy a bunch of 1-cost cards in your opponent's deck. And that's just like metagame dependent, right? I don't think that this is that bad, but I don't think it's that good. And then the other implication of this, of course, is just to slot it into a destroy deck alongside Deadpool. And will it be all right in a deck like that? And these are specifically like not the Dormammu destroy decks. These have to be the Deadpool destroy decks where you're destroying cards and they all come back with X-23 and Wolverine. Y'all know, I don't have to break down basic destroy, right? But I don't think that the benefit that you get from Headpool is as big as the benefit that you get from Wolverine and X-23. Certainly not as good as X-23. Potentially not even as good as like Moira if people are playing that. But I do think it could potentially edge out Wolverine. It could do that because the destroy decks actually in the past have played ways to pump up Deadpool. They have played Forge before Forge received a few nerfs and power shifts, and they've played Hulkbuster. I've played that in Deadpool destroy deck. So playing just a card that is fully in there to destroy your Deadpool is not the wackiest thing. There is a little bit of wackiness in terms of the sequencing. You need to make sure you play the Deadpool first and then the Headpool, so that way when you destroy them, the Deadpool is in your hand when the Headpool is destroyed, so that way the Headpool will buff up the Deadpool. But that's coming in after an initial double, and you really want to get buffs on Deadpool before you even double it. So you're doubling it to 2 and then adding +1 to 3. Or you're doubling it to 4 or 6 and then adding +1 to 5 or 7. And it starts to really seem like this is not necessarily worth a slot in the deck. That is, I think, my verdict on Headpool right now, not going to be good enough for classic Deadpool Destroy, unfortunately, and potentially playable in like a surferless surfer deck. But those decks aren't running Nova, and it feels like this is just would have basically the exact same role as a Nova would, which is kind of like letting your opponent know that Killmonger is in your deck. That's always the downside of playing Nova in your Silver Surfer deck. It just lets your opponent know that you're playing Killmonger. And honestly, at this stage of Marvel Snap, it feels like there's just better, more consistent ways to pump your cards than spending a slot on Nova, which really only works if you draw Killmonger. If there were like multiple Destroy cards, like if Destroy could do this right now and doesn't play Deathlock. So yeah, I don't see this one really making a splash anywhere.
You remind me of another zombie I love, Colonel America. The zombified Captain America in Marvel.
Okay, this one I just straight up don't know. Colonel America, and Colonel is such a weird word, right? Your other cards here, ongoing, your other cards here have +1 power. For each turn, you've discarded a card. Whoa! Discard support for... Which discard deck wants this the most? I'm not sure, because there's Hela, there's Apocalypse, and then there's Bullseye Dakin discard. That's basically it. But how many turns are you discarding cards in any of those decks? Certainly not 6. This is certainly not your other cards here have +6 power. But could it be your other cards here have +3 power? And the other thing to consider is like, how good is a card that says your other cards here have +3 power? We don't have that in the game. The closest thing that we have is Captain America, which says, oh, does this get buffed up by the shield? Oh no, I have to know. Sorry, I'll be right back. I don't think there's any way that the shield buffs Colonel America because he's not a captain, right? And that's what the shield does. It buffs Captain America's. But he will still buff the shield, so probably sees play in a... You probably play Sam Wilson in a deck alongside Colonel America, though actually, never mind, because you're probably too distracted discarding cards. This really just wants to... Because I don't think that there's any other mechanical overlap between ongoing and discard. I will say, like, Morbius being a pretty strong card, you could play Moonstone in a discard deck, but I think that that's win more. I think that that is using Moonstone on Morbius like wins a location that you're already winning some of the time. So obviously the closest thing to this is Captain America, and what's interesting is Captain America really does not see that much play. I will say Colonel America really gives you something to do with your swarms. If you've discarded a bunch of swarms, you can give all of them +3, and now you've got a bunch of 0/6s on the final turn. And I imagine that's like the baseline where you want to go with this, and then you're looking at a card that is... Let's call this a 3/9 conservatively. That's either two scenarios make this a 3/9. You've discarded cards on 2 turns and Colonel America pumps up 3 cards, or you've discarded cards on 3 turns and he's pumping up 2 cards. Either way, that's going to be a 3/9, which is definitely above the curve. And I think that this card is good. So I'm thinking about, how do you get this into traditional Apocalypse discard? I think that's going to be the better home for it. I feel like the Bullseye Dakin discard decks, I always call them Bullseye Dakin discard decks specifically. You've probably heard me say that before, because I really think that they are Dakin decks primarily, and I've even moved away from playing Bullseye Dakin discard, and now I'm playing a Jocasta Invisible Woman plus Dakin deck, with Bullseye as like the only discard card and Dakin as the only discard card in that deck. So I bring that up to say I don't think that you necessarily want to dilute the Dakin decks with that card, with this card, but an Apocalypse deck, a Khonshu Apocalypse deck, could certainly make use of this for the Swarm tokens as a pretty respectable 3/9. And I think this could make it into those decks. And those decks are good. They're underrated. It won the last Golden Gauntlet. I think that Colonel America actually has the sauce, believe it or not. You'll have to cut something from the deck, and that might not feel super easy to do. That's going to be the biggest issue with these, like, parasitic decks. How do you get in a new card when so much of the... I heard KM Best talk about this recently, that so much of the combo, like the interesting things about combo in Marvel Snap is the puzzle around deck building. So I don't have the answer here day one. That's going to be something that evolves over time as people try to fit the Colonel into the... I said he has the sauce, right? Yeah, he's got the mustard. I think that Colonel has got the mustard here, and that's my verdict.
Just like the smartest zombie unalive,
The smartest zombie unalive is cute. Zombie Mr. Fantastic. They should have called this Zombie Mr. Fantastic Four first steps. Just like throw a bunch on Mr. Fantastic. But I like that we are getting another Mr. Fantastic treatment. And what does this one do? On reveal, Horde +2. So already, right off the bat, this is a 2/4 on multiple locations. It's got some power spread. 2/4, power spread, pretty good. Activate, give 4 of your created cards, which will always include the Horde. Could include some other stuff, but will always include the Horde, +1 power. So it's a 2/5, like, fairly easily, and could be up to a 2/8. Is this an RSM card? I don't think so. I think this is like... yeah, this is like a Blue Marvel Zoo card, actually, because any pump effects that you have, any global pump effects, are going to affect both the Horde and Zombie Mr. Fantastic, so that would make it a 2/6 or a 2/7, and then you throw in Squirrel Girl on top of that, and now it is a 2/9, because it's pumping up 3 cards, and both of the 2 cards that it represents are 3 power each, so... that's a pretty good rate. 2/9, that's bigger than Dazzler, right? And helps to make Dazzler work and helps to make some of the other cards in the deck work. I think maybe just Blue Marvel. Oh, sure. Gilgamesh, is that the name of the 5/9? I believe that's called Gilgamesh, that old season pass card that I think still sees some play in these zombie decks, or in these zoo decks. Ooh, we could call the deck Zombies. And that is, I think, pretty good. Now, notably, Zoo is a much worse deck than Apocalypse Discard, for instance, that we just brought up. So, a really good... this card will be better in Zoo than... well... that's really tough to say. I think this is a really good card in Zoo, though. I think. And that means, and yeah, because it has the activate to pump up your created cards, it is bringing in some synergy with Gilgamesh there too. But Zoo, is it a better card in Zoo than Colonel Mustard will be in Discard? I'm not sure, but it's kind of a wash in terms of is that a relevant point to be discussing? Because the question is like, is this going to make Zoo playable? And I think that the problems with Zoo are deeper than not having a good 2-drop, right? The problems with Zoo is that it forgoes really all interaction and doesn't put up enough points to justify that. The benefit of Zoo is that it dodges a lot of tech, but it doesn't dodge all tech. It's very susceptible to Killmonger, of course. Something like this could make it somewhat less susceptible to Killmonger, though, I mean, you're looking to activate and pump up your Horde and your 3 Shauna cards with this, right? So still certainly a little bit susceptible in that capacity. I think this card is good. I don't think it moves the needle. The one question becomes, like, at what point does Zoo generate enough power off of cards like this that instead of playing Gilgamesh on the final turn, it just plays Juggernaut plus Mockingbird or Cosmo plus, I don't know, another 3 cost card, Cosmo plus, I'm not sure. But that's the question. And Zombie Mr. Fantastics does help push the deck in that direction.
Zombie Mr. Fantastic. In Marvel Snap, he's the first card with both an on reveal and an activate ability.
That's true. First card with an on reveal and an activate. So if your opponent steals this text with Super Adaptoid, I believe is the text stealing. Steal the text of an opposing activate card. I think that will then trigger the on reveal. That's how Rogue plus Blob used to work. So that's cute. And the fact that it's an activate card. So the other part of it that I didn't really discuss is the fact that this could be like an RSM card, and what other decks could this get played in? Yeah, I kind of just like boxed this in as a Zoo card, but maybe that's not fair. One, it could see play in Zombie Horde decks. I don't know exactly what those are going to look like before seeing the rest of the cards in this video, but RSM is something that you have to consider, because in an RSM deck, this is always going to be a 2/8. It is always going to be able to pump up 4 created cards. In Thanos, this is always going to be a 2/8. That deck obviously still has to worry about Killmonger as well, but Thanos, Zombie Mr. Fantastic, that's interesting, especially since most builds of Thanos, and I'm talking like Strange Supreme kind of Thanos with like tech, but this would be like a backup to Strange Supreme and a backup to a little more synergistic with Mockingbird even. Those decks often do want to battle for priority. Those are Alioth and Cosmo decks usually, more than their like Shang-Chi decks necessarily. I think I wrote this off a little bit too much because I started thinking about how good it could be in Zoo. I think it could be good in a variety of different decks. Any other decks that want created cards? Does Vicky Hand care about something like this? Or like Mole Man, Vicky Hand? Probably not. But it is really cheap too. It's really cheap, so you could... I mean, does that deck really care about bouncing? Oh, it could... You can re-trigger the Horde +2 with Misery. I don't know if that's good, but it's funny. And yeah, the Horde probably susceptible to Shadow King, which is oftentimes a card in that deck, so hit or miss with that.
Activate him later on, he gives 4 of your created cards bonus power 2. If you play your cards right, you can boost your Horde twice.
If you play your cards right, you can boost your Horde.
You can boost your Horde twice.
You can boost your Horde twice. What does he mean by that? Oh, Mysterio, Zombie Mr. Fantastic is a nice combo. Oh, I think he's just saying you boost it once with the Horde +2, and you boost it a second time by using the Activate ability. Sure.
What up? I'm Ben Brode. I'm the Chief Development Officer and co-founder at Second Dinner.
This is funny. Fourth wall break. Zombie Captain Marvel. I don't know what this one does at all. It is a 4/4 and has activate. Destroy your other cards here to get +3 power for each. Move to a location you're losing. Huh. So, what kind of cards do you want to destroy is one question to figure out. And does it always move? Oh. I know what kind of cards you want to destroy. Destroy cards. This is potentially just like a Deadpool destroy card, isn't it? Like destroying Wolverine in X-23 has to be the best use for this. It is a little bit slow, but the only other thing you would use for this is like, you know, to clean up your squirrels and Shauna tokens in some type of like death. I don't know what those decks are called, just like Killmonger death decks. I don't think that those are that good though. And I mean, sure, this could be playable in that, but this is kind of just like a straight up destroy card. And I don't think you necessarily want Headpool in that deck still, especially now with Zombie Captain Marvel also looking to take the place of some other cards in that deck. Interestingly, like Kid Omega never made its way. I mean, some people I've seen play it, but for the most part hasn't made its way into just like traditional destroy decks. This card is good, but there's a few problems with it. It's just potentially like a little bit slow. You play this on turn 4, and then you haven't destroyed anything on turn 4. On turn 4, you replay your Deadpool, then activate this. I'm sorry, on turn 5, you replay your Deadpool, and then you activate this. And that's fine. But if you're playing any other destroy effect, you can just play Deadpool and then play Deathlock on the Deadpool on turn 4. And that's usually like your best turn 4 play. And then your turn 5 play is to like play the Deadpool again and Venom it, right? So this doesn't fit into the optimal lines and feels significantly slower because it's not going to be as interchangeable with the other gameplay pieces, because you have to like take a turn off to play this thing. If you're playing it on turn 5, then you're not going to be able to replay the Deadpool that you get when you activate this, so that seems terrible. Yes, you can move this on the final turn using its ability. I think I saw this card a long time ago and was more excited by it than I am right now, and I don't know why that is. But right now, this is not seeming that exciting to me. This is seeming fairly weak. Huh. That's interesting. I'm like not trusting my gut read right now because I feel like maybe I saw a different version of this card, but I don't think so. I think I saw exactly this. And I'm not impressed with Zombie Captain Marvel, unfortunately.
She's still a force to be reckoned with as a zombie. In Marvel
Let's see what they do with it.
Zombie Captain Marvel destroys your other cards in her location, gaining power for each one. Then she moves to a location you're losing.
So she'd have to move and have that be relevant. I just don't see that being a thing.
Did you lose him?
I think so. This might not be the best time to bring this up, but this is just as intimidating as Zombie Galacti.
Okay,
zombie heroes
now
empowered with the
this I have kind of heard about, but what are we doing here? Zombie Galacti, start of game. So this is a 7/4, and this is actually a 7 power card. This is the first, or I'm sorry, 7 cost card. This is the first 7 cost card introduced into Marvel Snap that is actually a 7 cost card, because Arishem, and Arishem gives you extra energy. Dormammu has a different way to play it, and Scar and Death both have ways which they can get a cost reduction. Zombie Galacti does not have that, so you have to include Ramp in your deck. And what Zombie Galacti does is says, start of game, choose 6 other cards in your deck. On reveal, transform those cards into copies of this. So, what you will want to do, and I have no clue, hopefully they show the UI for how you choose 6 other cards in your deck. What you're going to want to do is commit a reasonable portion of your deck to both Ramp and Pump. And you want to ramp out so that way you can play Zombie Galacti, pump up the Zombie Galacti, and then that will transform the other cards that you've played into also pumped up versions of Zombie Galacti. So this is a very interesting deck building puzzle, made even more interesting by the choose 6 part of it. I was kind of, when I saw this before, thinking that like maybe the choose 6 part of it could be something that you do in deck construction. It seems like maybe the tech isn't there for that, but there is some flexibility in this, in that you could actually play. So there's a few things. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. This is really cool. This is, like I said, combo decks in Marvel Snap are deck building puzzles, and this has a really, really interesting deck building puzzle because, okay, you want to come up with 6 cards that you could turn into Zombie Galacti and feel pretty good about. So you're kind of then also trying to figure out what 5 cards do you not want to turn into Zombie Galacti, and those could be other types of build around, like maybe that's where you keep a Black Panther, and it will probably impact the cards that are in your hand. So there are some decision makings about, like, do you turn your Arnim Zola into a Zombie Galacti if you are playing this alongside Black Panther, which I'm thinking you could, because you'd want to potentially play other Pump. There is, so on the topic of Arnim's, is this on the topic of Arnim Zola? I'm just thinking about Galactus, normal Galactus, which also benefits from Pump and benefits from Ramp. And like, maybe if you play Zombie Galacti and you get that online, you'll no longer be interested in playing normal Galactus, right? So maybe you want to select Galactus as one of your cards to transform into Zombie Galacti. This seems like it is probably the best with Black Panther, or not Black Panther, Symbiote Spider-Man. Off the top of my head, that seems like a really good synergy. Maybe something like Shuri, but the Symbiote Spider-Man just has a lot of flexibility, and you could play Symbiote Spider-Man in a location like, say you have like, I don't know, whether it's Wave or Nokia or whatever you're using to pump this up. You could play that in the same location as, you could play Symbiote Spider-Man in the same location as those cards, and then play Zombie Galacti, and then your other cards will transform into copies of Zombie Galacti. Oh, but then I'm not sure if you could, what I'm getting at is, can you re-trigger the on reveal? Possibly not, because it's possible that those cards will not be those cards anymore. Those will just be Zombie Galacti. And so maybe that doesn't work. So maybe this only works with then Shuri, Gwenpool, and ways that you've pumped up the Zombie Galacti in your hand or as you play it. Not specifically Symbiote Spider-Man, but still, that could be a cute interaction if it works the way that I think it does. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, kind of same lines as like Galactus, could you potentially have Mobius be one of your Zombie Galacti cards? You probably are always looking to play this card on the final turn of the game, because you want to give your opponent the least opportunity to interact with it, right? and you can like easily toss priority, and then on turn 6 slam down a huge zombie Galacti, transforming everything else. That seems really good. So in a case like that, Mobius would like have its effect the entire game. But the reason that I also bring that up is like, what if you played a bunch of, I'm thinking about specifically in conquest mode and in tournaments, what if you played more tech cards than typical, and then if you have a tech card open decklist tournament, you have a tech card that doesn't work against your opponent? No, that's just a zombie Galacti, and that's no longer like a card that you care about. That allows you to put like Stardust into your deck and not get punished. This is kind of like a way to sideboard, sort of. Not really, but sort of. And you're playing a smaller Marvel Snap deck because of that. But yeah, I think that that is an interesting angle regarding Zombie Galacti. This card seems really cool. I'm excited to watch this footage here and see what they do with it.
In Marvel Snap, this card selects 6 other cards in your deck as their heralds. When you play
start of game
Galacti,
animation.
All heralds in play transform into
We didn't see the full start of game animation. We do see the cards in your hand transform. That I figured. Yeah, Shuri is really good with it. Alright, that's all that we see. So, we'll see how that plays out once Zombie Galacti is releasing, or maybe we'll get a little bit more information down the line. Seems really fun, though. Ooh, 2 new locations. End of turn, Horde 1, okay, and I am curious. I believe, so Horde is interesting in that the first Horde always happens at a different location. So I imagine that these locations are the same, because if we go back, we're 4 minutes into the video right now. If we go back to the definition of Horde, create a zombie horde with that much power at another location. So I think these locations that have you horde will also start the horde at a different location. After turn 4, draw a card, I think is what this is talking about. Draw if you're winning here. If not, Horde 2. So it's like a mini Asgard where the loser also gets something. And that's really interesting that Asgard, I don't know if we've had a location before that says if you're losing, something happens. Have we? I mean, other than Bar with No Name, I think this is the first location that rewards you for losing. Drawing a card, probably a bigger deal than Horde 2, but that is really curious. And there's also like ways that Horde 2 could backfire, like now a clog deck could try to give you the zombie horde, so that way you just have one less space on your board, or it could interrupt like a Black Panther combo. Interesting. And then the Deadlands, end of turn, Horde +1. I'm imagining same thing, that Horde is going to pop up at a different location. This is a end of turn effect. I don't believe that this will be re-triggerable. Oh, sorry, I'm blocking this. Horde 1 is the full text there. Oh, have I been blocking other text? Oh, well. I don't believe that this is copyable with Invisible Woman First Steps. I think that she only copies cards. But this shows up as location number 1. Both players are going to have a 6 power horde for free. Shows up on turn 2, it's 5. Turn 3, it is 4. And any later through like location change of X, it would be smaller. There is some interesting stuff going on there, though. One, with the fact that, yeah, you could have already created your horde before this happens with like a zombie Mr. Fantastic on turn 2, and then this location pops up as location number 3. But I'm also just thinking, like, what if Monster Island, as like a very basic example, said, create a monster at one of the other 2 locations. Sometimes that would just make the games so polarizing because this shows up as location number 3, your opponent gets a monster at location number 2, you get a monster at location number 1, and now both of you kind of have a location where you've already won it for free, and whoever wins that location would then be like the 3rd location then becomes the most contested one. So that's going to happen 50% of the time with the Deadlands, assuming no other horde creation before that, especially if this shows up on, turn 1. Both players are going to receive a 6-power horde at one of the other 2 locations. 50-50 chance that's a different location where both players will already just start the game with a 6-point lead. And there's lots of ways to interact with that. Shadow King, potentially Shang-Chi, if there's other horde cards in the game. But it just makes it very contested then. The Deadlands will be the location that really matters in terms of determining the winner. Both of these locations they have the potential to really change the game of Marvel Snap in almost like Sanctum Showdown sort of ways. I think that these are really, really cool. I'm excited to play with these ones.
I don't usually draw horror stuff, but
Cool.
I love drawing undead creatures. It's more about the mental break caused by hunger. What the
Zombie
characters
Sentry
will
we
keep
have
their
not seen. I'm not sure if these are just
personalities and
placeholder
points.
values
New
though.
cards for the
Oh, I
best
guess we
without
do have a giant man
having
coming.
find the
This
monster
is Zombie
building
Ant-Man?
and holding a tiny Janet in his hand.
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic, probably one of the most dynamic cards I did. His stretching ability really helps the composition. My favorite is
Cool to have
definitely
stretchy
I just love
bones.
this guy. He's got a cool hat and there's an explosion behind him. This guy
Cool hat.
was just so
Oh yeah,
much
he has
fun
like
to
a
draw
propeller
and
hat, right?
draw.
I don't know if Headpool is actually in Marvel Zombies or if it was just like a good fit with the rest of the season. I imagine everything else appearing this season is actually in the show, but haven't seen it yet. Here we also get a look at some Series 4 cards. I will note, oh gosh, I'm going to have to look up the values for these again. I hate that. But the hunger is actually a skill. I did hear about that being improperly represented here. I just saw that these were 1-2s in that art segment, but I'm going to look up these values real quick. So according to my data, we have, okay, no, these are not 1-2s at all. Those were just placeholder values. I'll go over these one at a time. Zombie Giant Man is a 5/3. Oh, I've seen this one. 5/3 on reveal, Horde +1. I thought this was Horde +2 at one point. Now this is Horde, I mean, maybe it always has been Horde +1. Then this gains power equal to your zombie horde. So the reason that I had seen this one is I was thinking about its implications in an Arnim Zola deck. Specifically like the Wong Black Panther deck. And notably, this is another 5-cost card that I think could curve nicely out of a Wong, right? It's not that great though, but it could be useful in games where you don't have Black Panther. And speaking of Black Panther, this is not a Black Panther, is it? I can't tell what the hunger is, but the the curve of Wong into Zombie Giant Man will create a 1-power horde and then a 4-power Zombie Man and then a 2-power horde and then a 6-power Zombie Giant Man. Not that great. Then if you Arnim Zola the Zombie Giant Man, could certainly get a little bit more out of hand. Let's say you just Arnim Zola the Zombie Giant Man, but you hit the Zombie Giant Man first. You don't hit the Wong first. You send both of them to other 2 locations. You're going to get 1 more power on the horde. And then a 5 No. 7 power Zombie Giant Man, then 1 more power on the Horde, and then an 11 power Zombie Giant Man. Yes. From +1, +2, +3, +4. That's a total of plus... No, +1, +2, +3, +4. Alright, sorry. +1, +2... Yeah, +3, +4. Basic math, but that would be +10. So it would wind up with 13 power at the other 2 locations, plus a 10 power zombie horde at one of the other 2 locations. Now, if you go Wong into Zombie Giant Man into Arnim Zola and you hit the Wong first, then it's 1 +2 +3 +4 +5 +6, with one of them stopping at +4. Oh yeah, because they won't both be 13 power. In the previous example, one of them would be 13 power, but one of them would stop at 9. In this example, one would go to 13, and then the other one would go up to 24. That's still not anything crazy. And I think in order to really make this useful, you would need to also be potentially running like the hunger, to be honest. Like, you'd probably want just some flat horde power early on in order to make that work. And there is some upside with the hunger being an on reveal card. It wouldn't work with Odin. Oh, and then speaking of, what's the curve of just simply Wong into Zombie Giant Man into Odin? That's a pretty cool play because it impacts multiple locations already. So 2 Zombie Giant Man triggers, and then Odin would give you 4 more. So that would get you, I believe I said, a 24 power horde? No, it's just a 6 power horde. The horde is just 6 power, but it would be a 24 power Zombie Giant Man. Just a 6 power horde, not that useful. It's interesting that I get that this card is getting big, but it gives you a smaller horde bonus than Zombie Mr. Fantastic. So, I don't know. After just doing the numbers there, I don't think Zombie Giant Man is that exciting. One thing that's interesting here is that we get Giant Man, which I'm pretty sure is Ant-Man. And then we also get Zombie Power Man, which... and then we also get Zombie Power Man, who is Luke Cage, right? So interesting sort of naming conventions. And then we also got Colonel America, and we got Headpool. So the namings are a little bit interesting with all of this, but Zombie Power Man is a 2/4. Okay, already good stats. End of turn. If you are winning here, discard the leftmost card in your hand. Okay, I was already turned on to this card by Lauren Whatevs because she said, I brought up that I was playing like an Invisible Woman plus Dakin deck, and she's like, oh, surely that's like a Zombie Power Man deck, right? Because end of turn and discard. And I don't know that it is, but I also don't know that it isn't. So this is very interesting. A 2/4 means that it will probably be able to discard the leftmost card in your hand. Another thing is like, okay, leftmost card in your hand, it could discard Agatha for you. Is that something that you're looking to do? And then will you have to, like, this is actually a really good zombie themed card because there's like a cool effect. I wish they almost played into this angle more. I don't know how they could have, but I just realized like how cool this is. It's like, okay, it gives you this cool thing, but then it can kind of get out of hand. Like imagine it discarding your Agatha, but then next turn, if you're still winning that location, it could then discard your Hela. And that could be pretty scary if it just starts to get out of control. It could also be pretty great if it starts to get out of control, depending on what sort of deck you're playing it in. Discarding the leftmost card in your hand, I mean, Yeah, thinking about the implications with that and Moon Girl and sort of some control over the leftmost card in your hand could give you potentially some better Moon Girls. This is... And then, right, the other part of this is you could repeat this effect with Invisible Woman First Steps. And trying to think about all of the implications of that, I think... I don't know if it's an Agatha card. I mean, the Red Shift is so much better, and because you don't have control over it, if Agatha winds up playing this over Red Shift, you'd feel pretty terrible about it. But it could be useful in having a second copy of Red Shift for when you don't have it, and potentially like more cards if you have, like, say you draw the Black Knight on turn 2, then having 2 different cards that Agatha could potentially play on turn 1. Though when Agatha plays the Black Knight on turn 2, that's actually better, because then you can still just play the Red Shift in your own volition on turn 3. Zombie Power Man, huh? Interesting. One thing to note, once a card is discarded as the leftmost card in your hand, it will then become the rightmost card in your hand if it's a card that comes back, like Swarm or Scorn or Apocalypse. So you're not really using it to discard the same thing multiple times usually, but I don't know. I really have no clue with this card. Oh, it's a Colonel America combo. Whoa, this allows you to get +5 on your Colonel because you just play Colonel into the Zombie Power Man location. You are going to stay winning at that location. You play this on turn 2, discard a card, play Colonel on turn 3. It's already giving Zombie Power Man, I was about to call it Luke Cage, Zombie Power Man +1. So now you've got 8 points at that location. End of turn, you discard a card. All of a sudden, you've got 9 points at that location, and you can play another card on turn 4 with +2 points and just continue to snowball with that, and you will continue to win that location. And then you'd have to use the value of your discarded cards to win another location for you. But I think that's a good combo. I think I found it. That looks good to me. Let's move on to Zombie Sentry. The stats on this are and this is a Grand Arena card. Grand Arena coming back. This is a 3/4. Horde +1 for each of your cards at the right location. So yeah, Zombie or Normal Sentry cares about the right location. And one thing that I am curious about, so all of these cards, just noticing, this is probably something that most people don't care about. All of these cards use the same text on the word zombie. Sentry's text looks fairly familiar to the text from the real Sentry. I'm curious, do any of these other ones have text? And again, in black and white, it's a little bit hard to tell. That's just Zombie Horde, Zombie Scarlet Witch. No, that's definitely new. Giant Man and Power Man are obviously different. Headpool kind of looks the same as Deadpool, though I'm not totally sure off the top of my head. Oh, this uses the zombie text for Colonel America, I'm pretty sure. Let's take a look at these O's and E's. Big on top, and then I do think it's using the same text here for America. Fantastic, yeah, maybe, but it's using a dirtier version with like these lines through it. And Captain Marvel, same thing, it's a dirtier version. Galacti, I should know what Galactus's text box looks like, but I don't off the top of my head. And then I wanted to compare this. Yeah, this is the same O and E in Colonel. So pretty cool how they have kind of like merged those different icons together. That's fun. Anyways, this is Sentry. It's like a dirty logo from the Sentry, and I don't know what Luke Cage logo looks like. This is not the Ant-Man logo, I don't believe, though. Horde +1 for each of your cards at the right location. So this is either a 1 or it's a 4. And as a 3/8, I guess that's not terrible if you go all in. It doesn't seem good, though, either, right? I do believe that hordes are 0/0s if we are to trust this text right here. Not that I trust everything that I see in these videos, but if hordes is 0/0, that is really relevant for polymorph shenanigans. Zombie Sentry seems bad to me, though, to be totally honest. The Hunger seems good, though, for multiple reasons. It's a 1-cost skill, and the first reason that it seems good is it's just a 1/3. It's a 1/3, and you could potentially have some other synergies with it. The main synergy that would come from the Hunger, I think, is just Zombie Giant Man, and then other things that I was talking about, like if you want to actually Arnim Zola your Horde, right? But I think that there is another reasonable use for it, and that is seeing where your Horde is on turn 1, and then kind of figuring out the rest of the game from there. And this would even be the only way to activate the Horde before Daglands picks where your Horde is for you. You could have like a little bit more control over it if there is a turn 1 Deadlands. But for the most part, that's not going to be super useful. But like, say the first location is Bar with No Name, or say the first location is a better location than that. Well, any location that like doubles, like Bar Sinister or something, is going to be really crazy, or Sinister London with this. Definitely you'll want to play it into that location. It's just free 6 points elsewhere. Oh, what was I getting at? Oh yeah, I think I was just going to get at the fact that like knowing where your Horde will be early gives you a little bit more knowledge just in terms of where you're going to play your cards after the fact. I don't know if most and then I think that most decks that will wind up playing this will be decks that are also including Wong. But interesting stuff. We'll see how all of that goes, and I do believe that that is everything coming this season. They might give us a little sneak peek at Sanctum and the Grand Arena.
Sanctum Showdown and a Halloween-themed version of Grand Arena.
Ooh, Halloween Grand Arena. So I did know Grand Arena is coming back. I cannot make out what this is, though. Can we make a guess based off what we see here? Is this Hydra Stomper? I really can't see what this card is. It looks like Herbie, and they're just playing some other things around it. And then this deck could be like a Lockjaw deck. I'm not sure.
Return. And later this month, we'll be celebrating Marvel Snap's 3rd anniversary with this
epic
Wolverine variant.
3rd anniversary of Marvel Snap, and it looks like that is actually going to be it for this video. So those are my initial thoughts on Undead Horde, and that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace. To enter into my giveaway, there are 3 things that you need to do. The first is subscribe to this YouTube channel. The second is leave a comment on any of my videos. This season, every comment will give you an additional entry into the giveaway. Limit 1 per video, but you can comment on all of the videos that I upload throughout this season. And the third thing that you have to do is join my Discord. And the reason that I need you to do that is so that way I can contact you if you win, because YouTube comments, you don't always get the notifications for things like that. So join my Discord, leave a comment on all of my videos, and subscribe for more sweet Marvel Snap.